All right, well, thank you for joining Mike Washington's karaoke hour here at the beautiful Marriott Baltimore. So let me just say thank you for signing up. Man, you guys really filled the room. A lot of purple shirts, and my family's in the back, so that makes the room look full. So we're really happy about that. My granddaughters, my daughter, and my wife, so that's great. What we're going to talk about today, I know it's a subject that's getting hit on a lot, but it's mental health in the fire service, first responders, and the military as well. And I don't know a better way to really talk about this than to talk about my story. And it's a story of being down at the bottom and then how I got back to leading a good, healthy, productive life. So, before I get started, let me just say a little bit about myself. I've got 30 years in the fire service, 25 in Seattle. And as we were talking about before, yes, everybody in Seattle fire is as good looking as they are in Station 19. That's a true story. I've got 5 years in San Diego County. Before I did that, I'm a retired Marine Corps Master Sergeant with 23 years of service, 7 active, 16 reserves, and 5 combat tours. Where's my military people at? Or former veterans? All right, yeah. So that's my start. But the question that I've always had trouble answering for people, even people who wear the uniform like we do, is who are we, right? And how do I capture that essence of who we are? And sometimes Hollywood really gets this stuff right, and I think. And so I found a clip, and let's see here. So we start off with, now, who are you?
Your Honor, you...
Consider yourself a union.
Colonel Jackson, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You weep for Santiago and you curse the Marines. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. That Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to. Did you order the code red? I did the job. Did you order the code red? You're goddamn right I did!
Now, that was a great speech right up until the time he admitted that he ordered Private Santiago to get beat up. But how many of you in the law enforcement, fire, military communities have ever tried to explain to people who don't wear the uniform what it is we do? And you sit there and you listen to them tell you, why do you guys do it this way? You know what you ought to do? You ought to do it like this. And how come you don't? This is the speech I want to be able to call up at every opportunity. And it's not just the first responders, it's the people in the hospitals, the emergency department, the dispatchers. And this one really encapsulated for me what we are about. We are the men and women and our families who are on the wall. We protect everybody else so they can do whatever it is other people do. I've worn a uniform my entire adult life, so I really don't know what people who don't wear uniforms do. So whatever it is they do, we protect them and we allow them to do it. And sometimes that becomes very hard, especially in this day and age where media is so instant and fingers get pointed so quickly about why did this go wrong and we should do this and we should do that. And I just felt that this video, that speech about being on the wall really describes who who we are, and then who we protect as counselors to those people or the family members. Okay, we are all in this together. If you're helping a first responder or a military person or a veteran, then we're all in it together. Now, the other question is, well, who am I? And I know a lot of people recognize me. You've seen my face before, and I appreciate you not rushing up on me and mobbing me for autographs and stuff like that, because I'm not here for that, but I have to acknowledge it. I'm that Mike Washington, a healthy baby of Hawaii in 1965. So thank you for that. Yes. Oh, my wife's saying that it's not on there. Well, there's the first. Man, this had all the promise of a really
Are you able to hit escape there? Escape right there, presentations.
Hold on one second. Well, if we could get the AV person to help me out with this. Man, my timing was really good on that one, though. Right after I said mobbing me for autographs, it was going to be a clip of me as a healthy baby of Hawaii in 1965. And you guys were going to react like that. Yeah, it was going to be awesome. But I'm not gonna dwell on that celebrity that passed, because it went wrong after a while. There was the fame and fortune of being the healthy baby of Hawaii in 1965, and I got into the baby, party scene, got into powdered milk, and then straight Similac, and then the wheels literally came off my wagon. So, but the reason why I talk about and I bring up my beginning is because it's the beginning that we all share. Every last one of us in this room all started out as a child. Now, before we became firefighters, law enforcement, and all the branches of the service, we started out as children. And what happens to us as children is something that we carry all the way up until we start doing these jobs.
If you unplug the connections of the projector, it'll reboot. I guess we could do that. Close the program?
Yeah, we do it. It's not doing what we wanted to do now, so nope. Yeah, we have a power source.
I don't know, I'm wondering if I might be screwing that up. If you reloaded it, where's your PowerPoint at?
My power is,
No, your PowerPoint,
oh,
your presentation. Let's see if it restarts.
all right, while we do this, I want to do a quick introduction of you guys around the room. If we start off on the right-hand side, including the volunteer in the purple, who are you and how'd you get here?
Wayne Cofield, I'm a volunteer, but I'm a chaplain with the Baltimore County Fire Police Department.
Awesome, chaplain.
I'm Doug Kennard from Columbia, Tennessee. I'm a captain of 26 years fire service and also a counselor.
Awesome, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Jimbo Nelson, Nashville Fire Department, captain, 30 years, CISM here.
Excellent.
Lindsay Sesher, Middle Tennessee, clinical social worker, community mental health.
All right. All right. I'm in the last, yeah, it takes a little, well, I'm in the last few classes for my MSW right now, so it's not as awesome as I want it to be. I walked for my graduation last week, and my wife was really big on saying, yeah, you gotta walk, and I'm going, I might just keep walking, because man, school sucks.
It takes a while, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't help it by trying to do all of it in 16 months, and I just went crazy. Yeah, well, my GI Bill was running out, so but thank you for being here.
Ian Duval from Alberta, Canada, and firefighter, paramedic, rank lieutenant for an integrated fire service, and co-coordinator for our peer support.
Excellent, thank you.
Martha Woody from Arlington, Texas, and I'm with the Arlington Police Department for 25 years, and my husband's with the Arlington Fire Department for 32 years.
Awesome, thank you. Sir.
Doug Pardue with the Nashville Fire Department. I'm a firefighter, paramedic, and a paramedic.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon. Kelly Moulton, Monterey County Behavioral Health. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the co-coordinator of our county CISM team, and my significant other is a fire captain.
Right on. Yeah, social workers, man. I feel a lot of solidarity with social workers all of a sudden. Yes, ma'am.
Diane Peterson, Anchorage, Alaska, Chief Chaplain for the Anchorage Police and Fire Departments. We have the Alaska CISM team and the peer support for the Fire Department.
All right, thank you.
Margaret Watson Hopkins from Sacramento, California, married to a firefighter for almost 32 years. He was the firefighter. We were married for 29. I'm a trauma nurse and a light nurse with UC Davis Medical Center and facilitator and trainer, and been doing this since 1989.
So let me get this straight. You're the spouse of a firefighter, you're a mom of a retired military person, you're a trauma nurse as well.
Yeah.
What are you going to do next? You seem to be kind of lagging.
I'm also a romance novelist.
Nice. Nice. Wait, the writer or the reader?
Writer.
Nice.
Working it all in there.
Yeah.
Firefighter romances.
Yes. Station 19. Station 19, all right. Thank you for being here. And I love that you have so many hats that you wear as an actual provider as well as the spouse of somebody on the line. Excuse me.
I'm Sam Buser. I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm a psychologist. I'm a staff psychologist at the Houston Fire Department, and I'm clinical director of our CSM team.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm Marilyn Briggs, and I'm from Tasmania, Australia, and I work for the welfare arm of the Catholic Church as a grief and bereavement counsellor and a health counsellor.
Thank you for coming all this way. Wow. I think you get the prize for the longest distance, right? Excellent. Yes, sir.
Prevention Specialist, Headquarters Battalion, 2nd Marine Division, and I spent 38 years in the military.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Nelson Ortiz, firefighter EMT with Montgomery County Fire Rescue, Vermont.
Well,
I'm Ben Holmquist, Lieutenant for Montgomery County Fire Rescue, member of our CISM team.
Richard Ryan, retired Boston Fire, presently Board of Director of the Massachusetts Peer Support Network.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Yes, ma'am.
Sue Brown. I was trying to narrow the hats down because I'm old, so I have a lot, but married to a Marine who has been in law enforcement for the last 26 years, so went from uniform to uniform. My dad's a retired fire chief. I've been on our state CISM team for over 20 years. I'm a mental health counselor and substance use counselor by trade, and work for veteran first responder healthcare, where the population we treat are veterans and first responders.
Is that it?
There are more. I was trying to do it really quickly.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm psyched to be working with my people. Oh, and I did 10 years in EMS. I forgot about that.
Okay.
As a
Thank you. Yes?
I'm Valerie. I'm Mike Washington's wife, Army veteran.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And don't you look nice today? And then I got my 2 granddaughters right there, and then at the far end,
My name is Asia. I'm the daughter of the healthy baby of Hawaii. The daughter of a firefighter and a Marine. I'm married to a soldier in the Army, and I'm a nurse in an ICU in Baltimore.
so there's a theme here. There's a theme of service, right? We are on the wall. And so let's go back to that timing. So thank you for not rushing up on me, because I was healthy baby of Hawaii in 1965. So we already did that. But as I said before we became soldiers, sailors, Coast Guard, Marines, Air Force, I speak all the languages, because you heard my wife's a soldier, my daughter's a soldier, my son-in-law's a soldier, Marines in the family. My field placement work is at Fort Lewis, and I work with some Air Force people, so I speak Army, HUA, Sergeant, that's how they say sergeant in the Army, Sergeant. I speak Navy, fore and aft, chief, all that stuff. Of course, I speak Marine Corps, URA, Semper Fi, and I speak Air Force. What's up, dude? So I got it. I've got all the things down. So, we were all those things, right? Law enforcement, firefighters. Real firefighters. Okay? The real firefighters.
I'm like what you call a hazmat driver.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Emergency room personnel, disaster. We were kids, right? We all started off as children. And you are the most vulnerable population out there. And this is before we decided we're going to put up our hands. And one of my coworkers in our CISM team in Seattle said, this profession, whether it's fire service, but especially in the therapy department of CISM, peer support, you don't find this profession, it finds you. And I think, judging by some of my colleagues, is that we have people who have been hurt and damaged before and can reach out and help people who are hurt and damaged. And I think when you're a kid, the types of abuses that you're subject to, psychological, sexual, economic, physical, and then just plain fear, right? These are all things that you're subject to. And I can say right now that using some of my classroom work in my MSW program, that if I was to divide this room up, that there'd be a large amount of people who have gone through some of these things. And I can guarantee you there's one person in this room who has been through all of those things, and that's me. I had the psychological, I had the sexual abuse as a child, I had the economic fear, not knowing if you're going to come home and your stuff's going to be out on the sidewalk, wearing the same clothes for a whole week and hoping nobody notices. Sometimes not getting all the meals that you think you're going to get. The corporal punishment that was normal at the time, right? It was normal at the time, or it was thought of. And you look at your parents and you see where they came from. And so the way my mother grew up, she grew up in a really Charles Dickens novel, not the good ones either, right? So she had these things that she passed on because she didn't know any better. So the corporal punishment and the fear and the violence in my neighborhood and the alcohol abuse in my household and in my family really is something that was carried on, and that's what I brought. Those were the bricks in my pack when I was coming up as a child. And you don't talk about these things. I didn't talk about being sexually molested as a child for years, right? Until I was about 50 is when I started. I'm 56 now. So for years I kept that secret, right? That dark secret. I'm not going to tell anybody about this, for a number of reasons. You can't go back and change it. It's embarrassing. And as a child, especially as a child, you ask, well, what did I do? I must have done something. You blame yourself. Now, you fast forward and you carry all these bricks in this backpack, and you have the physical, and you have the poverty, and you have the psychological, and the sexual. And now you're going to go into the big wide world and you're going to join the military. Or you're going to go and you're going to be a first responder. Maybe you start volunteering, and that's what you want to do. And you have all these things in your backpack that you're trying to forget. But the thing is that we're not designed to forget, right? We are not designed from the get-go to just not remember things. Maybe not relive them, but remembering keeps us alive. Remembering as a caveman means, hey, I saw somebody eat those red berries and they died, so don't eat them. And if I go down this path here, I better have a long-handled spear because there's a big animal that lives over there. I got to remember that. So we're designed to remember. But in this day and age, we try to forget things. We get talked, especially men, okay, I think especially men, hey, buck up. Somebody's always got it worse than you. All right? Just forget about it. What are you crying about? Rub some dirt on it. And I see a lot of people about the same age as I am, a little bit older, a little bit younger, but we all come from the same, we're cut from the same cloth, and we're told to do these things and behave in these manners, and they're detrimental to you. So for me, I joined the Marine Corps, right? I decided I can't wait to get out of the house, although military service is a tradition in my family. But part of it was I can't wait to get out and be my own man, to leave these circumstances behind me, to start new and start collecting that $501.98 the Marine Corps was paying a private back in 1981 and live my own life and forget about all that stuff. Again, we are not designed to forget. So I joined an organization where we had some pretty tough guys in the Marine Corps. The commandant of the Marine Corps was a World War II veteran. Most of my first sergeants and sergeant majors were Korea and Vietnam. Gunnery sergeants and staff sergeants, almost all of them were Vietnam veterans. These are guys who didn't talk about their feelings, right? These are guys who didn't say, how are you doing today there, Lance Corporal Washington, right? These are the guys who said, well, I'm not going to talk the way they talked in mixed company, but you can imagine, think Full Metal Jacket, because that's what they were, right? And they drank it. So I started drinking back in those days. Again, I think you guys can all appreciate this. Really, when did I start drinking? I started drinking probably about 6 years old, right? My grandfather would come home from work. He was a construction guy. He had the lace-up boots, and I'd unlace them, and, he'd have a beer right there. Grandpa, can I have a sip of your beer? Sure, son, here you go. Yay, I'm like Grandpa, yay. Right? It's just, a sip of beer. It's no big deal, right? And we'd go out to dinner, and Grandpa would have a scotch on the rocks. I wanted the rocks when he was done. There's a little bit of scotch in there, too, right? But I'm drinking that. And I remember all the TV shows. Everything was fixed with a drink. Had a tough day at the office? Well, Samantha's waiting for you at the door with a martini. I couldn't wait to have a martini. I could not wait to go to a bar and order a martini. And martinis are horrible. Oh my God, I don't know what I thought it was going to be like, but it was like liquid evil. Oh, it was terrible, terrible. But I started drinking for effect to get away from some of these psychological issues I was dealing with as a child, trying to fit in, trying to do all those things we do as teenagers, added with these other burdens that I had heaped on myself. And so by the time I was in junior high school, I was drinking a lot. And high school, drinking a lot. Then I joined an organization that promotes drinking, right? Marine Corps birthday, yeah. Company parties, man. It wasn't a party unless there was 5 cases to start, and then somebody making a beer run. And then you're gonna go out in town and really do it up. That's the world I went into. After I did my 7 years of active duty, I joined the San Diego County Fire Department. Now, the fire service may not be all the way up to the Marine Corps levels of drinking, but we like to party, right? We like to party. And I love the fire department. I love everything that it did. It had the camaraderie. We were doing a job that nobody else wanted to do. I'm raising my hand now to go into these situations, right? Send me. Whatever the worst thing you have, I want to go. And I remember back in the day, we didn't wear gloves. You guys remember that, right? You didn't have gloves when you went on a call. And the more blood you had on you, that meant, man, you were in it. You were doing. Right? It's just like you go to a wildland fire, if you have some of the retardant on you, that means they did an airdrop right on you, right? You were in it. And that's the kind of badge that you wore. That's the kind of people we are. People like us on the wall, we want that stuff, okay? Secretly, you may not say it out loud, you go, no, that's dangerous. Yeah, but you come back and go, your peers look at you like, yeah, all right, Mike's doing it. And you want that, and you celebrated that. but you didn't talk about the tough times. My first bad call was a toddler who had upended himself into a bucket of wallpaper paste. And you know what, now you have the little diagram on there that says, you know, make sure you don't do that. Well, this was before that. And I'm trying to do rescue breathing on this child on the way to the hospital. It was a scoop and swoop. And to this day, if I eat oatmeal of the right consistency, it takes me right back to that call, right? That wallpaper paste that would aspirate into my mouth was, at times, if other things are consistent, take me right back to that call. Now, I know how to deal with it. Now I understand what's happening. Okay, I go back, I don't live it. It's a memory. Oh man, that was horrible. Okay, I'm back. I don't dwell in it. But back then, after that call, it was like, man, that really sucked. Okay, what's the next thing? And you just deal with it, right? You just forget about it, you don't talk about it. So in the fire department, like I said, a lot of wildland fires and all the things that we see. I stay in the Marine Corps Reserve and I get my first taste of combat in Desert Storm. 2nd Light Armored Infantry Battalion, 2nd Marine Division. I'm the guy on the right in that picture with the Barack Obama mask on. I am twice the man now than I was back then in a lot of ways, right? But mostly this way, literally twice the man. This is my first taste of combat. This is my first taste of visiting, pardon me, doing what we're supposed to do in war. Let me just leave it at that. And I was okay with it, understanding the concept of what we're supposed to do and what was being done to me. Now, I will tell you a funny story about my baptism of fire. Not all the stories are bad. The baptism of fire, for those of you who don't know what that is, means this is the first time that somebody was trying to shoot and kill you. Now, it's a funny story. Now, back in the day, Desert Storm was the first war where we used MREs. We had just transitioned over the last few years from C rations to MREs. And in the first generation of MREs, you had to add water to various things to make them work, right? So like the hamburger patty came in a plastic bag and it was a disgusting puck that had to have just the right amount of water to activate it and make it edible. And you do the same thing with your mustard and the same thing with your ketchup, and that's what your hamburger was going to be like. And I never got it right. And one day I was sitting in the turret of that very vehicle, and we were on the front, and bad guys are somewhere out in front of us. The ground war hadn't started yet. And I got involved in building this hamburger because I got just the right amount of water in it. Too much, it becomes a really disgusting, nasty soup. Too little, it's a chalky, disgusting mess. I just wanted the perfect, disgusting hamburger. That's what I was after. That's what I was after, and I was getting it. And we had MRE bread, too. That was a rare thing to do, is to get MRE bread, because it came in a whole separate thing. I don't know why, it's the Marine Corps, okay? As I'm building this hamburger, I hear this loud crack and pop about 40 yards off to the left. And I felt some rocks or something hit me. And I look up, I don't see anything, I just see a smudge kind of disappearing. Back to my hamburger. A few seconds later, I hear another one to the right, a little bit closer, and the rocks were a little bit bigger. And I thought it was one of my guys who was just throwing rocks at me, you know, kind of goofing off. Back to the hamburger, right? You get bored out there. You get really bored. The next one was in front, a little closer, and the rocks were bigger, and that's when I realized, hey, that's airburst artillery. Somebody's looking at us and is trying to kill the healthy baby of Hawaii in 1965. So I put my hamburger on the turret, and I said, okay, let's back it up. We're backing up out of the hole we were in. We hit a bump, and that perfect hamburger fell into the Saudi Arabian Kuwait desert. And I told my driver, stop! Now remember, we're under artillery fire. And I had to look over and go, okay, let's go. We got to move out. But that was my baptism of fire. It's not a bad story, right? So not all our stories are bad, but I remember it like it was yesterday. But then there's some other ones I remember like it was yesterday sometimes. And sometimes lately, some of the wrecks or fires that I've been at have taken me right back to Desert Storm. Not necessarily bad, but it takes me right back, and they haven't done that in a while. So I stay in the Marine Corps. And then I go up to the Seattle Fire Department, Station 19. Yeah, that's me. That's me. The only thing real about that show is how good looking the Seattle firefighters are. And in the meantime, so just like some of you, I worked part-time in the emergency room, Tacoma General ER. Right? We can't let go of this. Some of us, this is what we do. This is how we are wired. And that was me. I stay in the Marine Corps Reserve as a counterintelligence agent, and I go to Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Africa. But this is me. Okay, I love doing what I'm doing. There's times when I'm actually making a difference in my local community. Sometimes I'm making a difference overseas, but it's me. It's my inner core, just like you guys. I'm you, you're me. After my last tour, I retired from the Marine Corps. My family, and we're talking about family now because it's hard on the family, especially in this day and age when you can keep going out, especially as a counterintelligence guy. There's always missions for me, and I was going to keep taking them. And my family was at a point where saying, you've got your time in, you've done your tours, maybe you should get out. And I said, okay. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, and it was weird because I even though I was a firefighter, I had a loss of purpose. Because there's nothing like being a Marine at the forward edge of the battle area. There's nothing like being deployed with people like that. The fire service is awesome, but we have a union. Right? If there's a difference between the military and a fire service, is we have a union. And we're going to go home almost all the time, the next day, couple days even, right? But there's something about the camaraderie in the service, especially in war, that I really missed. I had trouble readjusting to a country that was not at war. They say America's been at war for almost 20 years, but that's not true. The Marines and the Army have been at war. And the Navy and the Air Force as well, but the Marines and the Army have been doing the heavy lifting in this war. And when you come back and you see life going on just like nothing happened, it's hard to adjust to that. It's hard to adjust to people who just flip the channel when something's going on in Afghanistan because they won't be touched. There's no draft, there's no taxes, there's nothing, but it was getting on me. And I was agitated. I found myself just being angry a lot. Now, the truth is, this started after Desert Storm, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what these things were. I know what they are now. And I found myself being depressed, too, that I'm not as effective as I used to be. What happened to the guy that I used to be? And then I handed the war off to my children. As I said, my daughter's an Army veteran, and my son, he went in the Marine Corps. That's them. My daughter was a fashion model in the Army, so you didn't know they had that. They were Korean linguists. And like I said, my son went in the Marines. So on June 14th, 2008, I was working an overtime shift in Cielo and Green Lake. And that's a great station. It's a nice area of the city. And it was really awesome. And it was overtime, and we're going to eat good in that station. You're probably going to sleep at night. You know, all those things that you like in the fire service, right? No, it's thumbs up. All of a sudden, one of my best friends in the fire department came driving up. And I'm going, man, this day is just getting better and better. And we were getting ready to go on an automatic fire alarm. And so we were putting our bunking gear on. And he goes straight to the officer and he tells him, you're out of service, you're out of service. And I thought that was weird because he didn't even really acknowledge me. And in an instant later, I saw a white Chevy Suburban pull up with a Marine staff sergeant and Marine captain and my kid's mother in the back. And I knew that they'd come to tell me that my son was killed in action. And that young captain walked up to me and he rendered a hand salute, said, Master Sergeant Washington, are you the father of Sergeant Michael T. Washington, Gulf Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines? Yes, sir. And he proceeded to tell me now, if there's ever a time that somebody has a blank check to let their emotions out and be human and react, this is the time. But I remember being very conscious of who I was and how I thought I was supposed to respond to this. I couldn't cry out. I couldn't fall to the ground. I couldn't scream. I had to have the decorum of returning a hand salute and saying, yes, sir, I understand, sir, and and then going and getting my gear and going home because I knew people would be coming over. These are all things that have been, I don't know, they've been inside me because of who I thought I was and who I needed to be. And it was a disservice, right? And this is what we teach ourselves. This is what we taught our kids, our boys especially, coming up, and who I thought I was as a Marine, as a firefighter. This is how I have to respond. I cannot respond by just breaking down. And we use those pejorative terms, right? If somebody does respond in an appropriate way, he's breaking down. We even say stuff like, well, he's losing his shit. Keep your stuff together, right? These are terms that we use to make it just seem bad, that if, I didn't want to be that person. I had to be strong. In the weeks that came after that, guys were coming over to the house after shift, and we'd start drinking. And we drank a lot. And I found myself giving comfort to these men and women as they came to my house. I mean, they're crying, oh my God, Mike, because a lot of them remember Michael, my son, when he was small at the fire station. And I found myself going, oh man, it's going to be all right. It's going to be good. I'm keeping my feelings, my emotions inside. And I had a lot of them, but I couldn't let them out. Or I didn't think I could, because that's who I told myself I had to be. The way I responded, well, drinking, like I said, if there's an outfit that's really big in it, the Marine Corps and the Fire Department, right? And that's what we did. There was denial. It took me a full year, to accept that my son was gone. Even though empirically I knew when they came up and told me that he was not coming back. I didn't see a body, but I talked to some of his friends, and I know I didn't want to, but it took me a year. I reached out to other Gold Star families because I felt, hey, I can help these people through what they're going through, because I'm a CISM guy in the fire department. Now, I'm not dealing with my stuff, right? Hey, come on, Joe, it's gonna be all right. Hey, Gold Star family, yeah, it's gonna be okay. But never once am I going out to somebody saying, I need to talk to somebody. Never once am I just, letting it out myself. So if you look back on my resume from 0 to 18, being molested, all these other issues I had growing up, alcohol, all these things, 5 tours of war for myself, the years I had in the fire department already, and now this, and I still haven't found that valve to open up. Actually, I know it's there because I'm a CISM guy. If you came up to me and said, hey Mike, I got all this stuff. Oh man, okay, we're gonna get you, here's what we do. But I can't look at myself in the mirror and say that. I can't do it. I withdrew from my wife. We went on two totally different paths. And the way I was responding was just terrible. And I had a lot of guilt. What was I doing at home? Living the good life while my son was out doing the heavy lifting, right? That's what I was walking around with. And I still walk around with that guilt today. It's reduced, and I understand it, and I know how to work with it through therapy, but I still carry it. And I had anger. And I still do have anger, but again, I know how to work with this now. So this is the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marine family. On the left there, the guy in the green shirt, you'll see him on Wounded Warrior commercials a lot. Anthony Villarreal. The guy hiding behind the menu there, Kevin Colbert, he was the lone survivor of the Humvee blast that took my son and 3 other Marines. I'm on the picture on the right, I'm on the far right, and the gentleman in the blue shirt, his name is Raul Mendoza, and his son Matthew died a week after my son. They were in the same battalion. And so a lot of the wounded ended up at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio with burns, amputations, you name it. And we both, just really pitched forward on that. I think there was a part of us that said, if we really do some good work here, maybe, just maybe, this is a bad dream and we wake up. I don't know. I still wonder, but I also think I'm just like all of you in here. We want to help. We want to help. And while I'm doing all that, I'm not dealing with my stuff. So I become the master of disaster. In 2010, there was an earthquake in Haiti, and an organization called Team Rubicon, anybody hear of that group? Was started by two Marines, William McNulty and Jake Wood. Jake and my son were in the same unit in Iraq and in Afghanistan, just in different companies. And I knew Jake when he was a private first class. They decided they couldn't watch any more of this on TV, and they got some other veterans in the Southern California area, and they went, and they started doing things.
I want to tell you a story. The story of a group of people. A group of people with an impulse. An impulse that was a call to serve. And that service filled a need and bridged a gap. Swift-footed, mobile, adaptable, they treated countless victims. They saved lives. They banded together and served in remote locations. Locations some dared not go. But then they found that there was also a need at home. And that need was also tangible and immediate. One tornado, one hurricane after another, and more destruction than they had the resources or manpower to respond to. So, they recruited, and that call was answered. Thousands of volunteers answered, on standby for each disaster, hoping to be deployed, given a t-shirt, maybe a cot to sleep on, a hot meal at the end of the day, given a mission, a purpose. And they found that they were healing more than the wounds of a storm. They were also healing the wounds of a war. A war that forged a brotherhood and sisterhood. A war that instilled in them certain skills. A war that would forever change their perspective. A war that they would leave, but that would never leave them. Some were lost. Some were lost here at home. Everyday lives are lost here. But the call continues to go out. For they did not stop serving when they took off the uniform. They merely traded in that uniform for one with a symbol with a river running through it, a symbol of a gap, of a challenge that they must adapt to, be pliable to, and stay a step ahead of. And a call that must be answered, to serve again, to put others before oneself, to manage volunteers, to set an example, to do simple good, to bring order to chaos, to give relief, to give comfort, to give hope to others and to themselves. We've crossed the Rubicon. Now, we burn the boat.
So Team Rubicon's 80,000 strong now, and I'm proud to say I'm one of the first 100 in the organization. But Team Rubicon allowed me to get that sense of purpose in, and it was different than the fire service, right? This is going someplace, living hard, eating whatever people are gonna give to you or whatever your logistics people can go out and get to you. You're helping people and one bucket at a time. And if you've ever mucked out a basement after a flood, you know that's not sexy work, right? And there's no cameras watching you muck out a basement. But the people need it, and I love being it. The other reason why I love being it is because I'm serving with friends of my son. One of the guys in that video, we were at Sandy, Union Beach, New Jersey, and I had my fire department foul weather coat on. He came up to me, he says, are you Mike Washington? And I go, yeah. Are you Mike Washington's dad? I go, yeah. I said, my name's Ryan, and he was my squad leader in Iraq. And it was just so good to be around these guys again. And I got to be Master Sergeant Washington, and these kids were coming up to me looking for direction. They were looking for help. And a lot of the guys from 2-7 were broken. We lost 20 killed and 150 wounded in their 5.5-month tour, and we've lost over 20 to suicide since 2008. And I was getting calls in the middle of the night from these kids just saying, I feel so sorry about what happened to your son. I wish, how come I didn't? Why? And I was keen on answering those calls. I was keen on doing that. I was keen on going to every disaster I could. By this time, my marriage is done. I'm just so out of my head. But if I do these things, that means I don't have to deal with my stuff, right? And I'm doing good things, so even better. Right? We go to these things, we were hard drinking, we were hard working, but we were doing stuff. And the motto of Team Rubicon is get shit done. That is literally our motto. And that's what we were doing. And I loved it. But again, I was running. One of my first open displays of breakdown was at Moore, Oklahoma for and it wasn't that. I used to try and come up with great stories about saving a bunch of kids from a burning building, and that's what happened. But really a tree branch whipsawed and hit my head and cut my head, and scalp wounds, how they bleed. But it makes an awesome picture. So after the day's operations, you go back to our rally point, and the beer flag goes up, and you plan for the next day and you talk war stories, whatever it is you're going to do around the fire. Well, I found a moment to get by myself. Now, how many of you have ever been broken up with in your life, right? Where somebody says, I don't want to date you no more. I don't want anything to do. Really, I'm the only one? Okay, most of us, thank you. Because usually people are like, oh, not me, and I'm the only one. What do? We find that song that was our song, and we play it over and over and over again. And we just drive that knife deeper and deeper into our heart. Well, I think you do the same thing when you're going through grief. You find this music that can send you down that rabbit hole, and it can send you down fast. For me, that music was Pink Floyd. Right? There's some albums in there that are just great albums, but where I was, they weren't great, and I should not have been listening to them. And I found myself sitting on the bench, thinking I was by myself, listening, I had the earbuds on, and I just started breaking down. I just started crying. Now, this was not the first time. I've had this happen to me before, but usually I could control it. I could go find some place and, do like this and go, all right, get it together. And I thought I was by myself, but when I looked up, the group had already come out to where I was at. One of the guys, his name is Damon, corralled the rest of the group over to the other side of the field. And when I looked up and I saw that they were over there, I said, okay, all right, let's go. I go up to him, okay guys, what we got going on? Everybody got food, everybody? And he looked at me, he says, are you all right? Well, what's my answer? Yeah, that face, you didn't see this young lady's face, but her face was like, yeah. And then also, yeah, I'm good. How you doing? Right? Let me deflect it onto you. And he looked at me again and he just said, no, Top, are you all right? How you doing? Little less conviction. I said, I'm good. And he just looked at me for a few more seconds. There was no accusation, there was no condemnation, there was no judgment, because he's going through it too. Not at that moment, but he knows what's happening. And he was trying to give me my space. And he's also the one who led me to a group called Save a Warrior later on. But this was the first time that I realized that somebody else is seeing through my mask. I threw this one in here because when you go to a town, usually they say, God bless whatever the town is, or whatever the town is strong. And this happened to be Washington, Illinois. And when your name's Mike Washington and people have these signs up all over the place, well, what are you supposed to think, right? And I came up to this guy's house, hey, can I take a picture next to this? He goes, yeah, why? He says, well, my name's Mike Washington. He goes, well, God bless you, Washington. Thanks for coming. So, but I'm running away. I am. I'd come back to this little apartment, this little dark apartment in Tacoma, and the monster would be sitting right there in the corner saying, you ready to deal with me yet? Of course I wasn't. I'm praying the phone's gonna ring, something, and then go have a gentleman jack or a fireball, call it good, wash, rinse, repeat. So at this time, I'm also on the CISM team, right? So now I'm taking secondary trauma from all these other firefighters and stuff, right? Don't look at me like that, because you guys are the same. I'm you, you're me, right? But I don't realize until I go to this one disaster, this mudslide place called Oso, how physically and mentally draining this work is. I didn't realize. I thought, well, I'm just talking to people or listening to them. You know, what's so hard about that? Well, you all know, it's hard. It's hard. So we're going to the wildfires and we're talking to residents. This is another one where I started to kind of lose my veneer. Just down from where we lost 4 firefighters, not Seattle firefighters, but Washington State crews. And just a few miles from where this happened, there's a broad river, and people were water skiing, jet skiing, barbecuing, having a big old time. And I was angry. Now, how dare you do this when you can see this column of smoke and you know that people just died fighting fire? You don't get to do this. But of course you do. Yeah, life does go on, but I'm kind of out of my head, to use a technical term, and I'm starting to get very angry very easy. There's the mudslide. And I'll touch on a quick story about our ability to remember. A National Guard soldier had an issue, and they asked me to talk to him because of my military background. I talked to the soldier, and we talked about how the sound of the tracks of the excavators on the hardball sounded like tanks. There was a lot of helicopters flying around, the smells. It was a military operation by the 2nd or 3rd week because we were just body recovery after that. And we recovered every last body. But by the time I was done talking to this soldier, I realized that his problem was not Oso. His problem was a place called Ramadi 5 years before. This is a place that he thought he was going to leave. He's going to put it in a trunk. He's going to duct tape it. He's going to seal it. He's going to throw it in the middle of the ocean. He'll never have to deal with it again. But when he got called to Oso, he heard something, saw something, or smelled something that sent him right back to Ramadi. Right back. And it hit him like a ton of bricks. Like a ton of bricks. So we got him, I got him some resources to the VA, and I don't know what happened with them, but that's an illustration of how our mind works. So we're going to all these things, and meanwhile the normal calls at Fire Station 27, where I watch TV for the city of Seattle, right? The normal calls happen. And what was possibly my high water mark, or low water, depending on how you want to see it, was being the first in on a triple murder suicide where a grandfather killed his daughter and then killed his granddaughter because he was molesting the granddaughter, the same as he had molested the daughter. For some reason, the son was able to get away, and then the grandfather killed himself. The young lady in this picture, when I was, first let me say about my law enforcement brothers and sisters, they go through, the job that he had was to go through this house, check for a carotid pulse, and then keep going because he had a different job. His job is security. I can't imagine what it's like to have to do that. And then go home by yourself or go in that patrol car back to the precinct and write your report by yourself. At least I got 3 other people in the engine or the truck. But he pointed out this young lady and said she might be viable. And as I held her in my hand and in my arms, and my partner was working on her, and we knew she wasn't viable, but we were doing our best. She had long black hair, and it reminded me of my granddaughter. And I remember after we left this call, we went on another call. Emergency childbirth, language barrier, complications. And I remember carrying this gear, and I remember just saying to myself, I need this to go well. And I'd never said that before. I'd never ever said one call was one call. And I said to myself, this has to go well. And fortunately, we go into the room, and I can't blame it on any culture. I think it's all cultures. The men are over here. The wife was in the bathroom, and unfortunately there was a kid who could speak English, helped us get over there, and I forced the door, and the baby was born on the floor. And did the things that babies do, and it was all right. But I recognized then, and then you know what I did later? I organized the CISM for the triple murder suicide. Yeah, you don't do that. I know. Everybody's going here, what the hell are you doing, Mike? What are you, an idiot? Yeah. But that was me. That's where I was. Yeah, I got this. I don't have it. I don't. I'm falling apart. This is me. And in this picture, I'm that ship, and in my head, I just need to do a little counter flooding, and I'll be back on an even keel. All I need to do is just do a little bit of this, and I'll be all right. I'm drinking a lot because I don't want to sleep, because sleep brings nightmares, but I'm exhausted. Okay, you know the cycle. You know how that works. I'm fighting, but this kind of fighting is me. I used to have a Harley Davidson, and I had full leather jacket that said 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines on the back, and I put that on, and I go to these bars in Tacoma that I know you can go get in a fight in. I'd go there and I'd line up a couple shots. I'd do those shots and I'd wait. I'd wait, right? Somebody would say something about on TV if they were saying, hey, we need to send more troops to Iraq. And I'd say, oh yeah? Tell me you've been to Iraq. Tell me you carried a rifle somewhere. Somebody says we need to get out of Afghanistan. Oh, tell me you've been there and you didn't leave anybody behind. Somebody could say, hey, the Mariners are terrible. Well, they were terrible, but it didn't matter. Just two things I understood in my life, and that's drinking and that's fighting. And I kept the fighting down for a good part of my life. And I didn't have any reason to, and now I wasn't not able to do it. And I was doing that. And I'm snapping at coworkers, I'm snapping at patients on the job. The guy who's living under the freeway, who has nothing. He gives me a little smart comment, my hand is around his throat. And I want to kill him. This guy has nothing. I have everything. And that's what I want to do. And at this point, I go from, I just need to do a couple things, to I need to kill myself. And, that's a hell of a thing. And one of the ways I did it, or tried to do it, was let's have a couple drinks first. And I'd ride my Harley Davidson through these intersections against the light, arms stretched out, eyes closed. And I'm hoping that I'm going to become a hood ornament on a Kenworth or a Peterbilt. That's what I'm hoping. And I didn't care what my family thought. I didn't care what my friends thought. The only thing that stopped me, you want to know what stopped me, is that I didn't want you guys to come pick me up and add one more horrible image to the index of stuff that you're going to see. It doesn't make any sense, I know, but that's where I'm at. The other one was here. This is in Tacoma. Now, that restaurant, if you ever go to Tacoma, Washington, Stanley and Seafort's, it's a great restaurant. And it was a great place for me to have a last meal and a last drink, because that bridge is right next to that restaurant. And I remember walking out to that bridge, and I remember standing on the edge, and I remember putting out my arms and just waiting to go forward. Instead, I was pulled back. Now, I believe that it was my son who pulled me back. And I believe my son was telling me I have a mission, that my story doesn't end here. This is not where it ends. And I never went back up to that bridge, but that's where I was. I was on the edge. And there was nothing that was going to make sense. There was no amount of pleading at that moment that was going to help me. I was just a failure. I was a failure in so many things, and I couldn't protect my kids. Just you name it. That's where I was, and I didn't know how to get help. Now people ask, well, Mike, what does that breakdown look like? What did your breakdowns look like? And again, Hollywood to the rescue. I found the clip of what my breakdowns look like.
another count.
It looked exactly like that. And if you notice, there was a part where in the middle, he quickly looks over the hill because he doesn't want anybody to see. These things started after Desert Storm. Small, they were microbursts at the time, but now they were coming full-on breakdowns when I'm driving at the fire station, you know, you name it. They were coming on and they were looking like that, and I didn't know what was happening to me. Okay, and this is not crying. Okay, this is not an emotional release or cleansing. This is a breakdown. Let's be clear on what this is. I'm pro crying, right? Field of Dreams. Sometimes I put that on just so I can get some tears going. Okay, who doesn't cry on Field of Dreams? The guy just wants to play ball with his dad, right? Right? Okay. How about those ASPCA commercials? Sarah McLachlan, right? And the dogs. Yeah. Who doesn't cry on those? Yeah, we went and got ourselves a rescue. Not because of that commercial. And it really wasn't a rescue. I mean, my wife and I didn't fast rope in from a Black Hawk and kick a door in or anything. And dog strapped to a chair getting beat around. You know, it wasn't that. We went to the pound and got her. But in that commercial, you see these dogs, they look like they pulled her out of a great white shark's belly or something, right? So I'm pro crying, but that's not what this was. And I didn't know what to do with this. I didn't know how to handle it. Right, so when we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, I know we like to use the word injury, but where I was at, it's a disorder now. Injury and post-traumatic stress, that's normal. That's your body reacting the way it's supposed to react. Injury is when, okay, it might be a little bit more. Disorder is when you've let 50 years worth of injury happen and not dealt with it. Okay, so disorder, I think, is still a word we can use, but it has to be used accurately. And if I think to forward the conversation and put it in a good light, I'm all right with using injury. But where I was at, disorder. And this goes back 2,000 years. This is a human condition. And one of the things that we do in our line of work is we have a disservice in that, well, it's a service and a disservice, all right? The fire service and the Marine Corps, the military, we're really big on our lineage. Right? We're huge on it, man. The people who came before us, we can't let them down. And we look at the World War II generation, right? The greatest generation. And they just went to war and they fought and they came back and they didn't complain, and then they went to school and they started and they did all this awesome stuff. They didn't complain about no PTSD and no crying about anything like that. Do you think that those guys had problems? There was one soldier in the European theater of operation, as a matter of fact in the Army, as far as I know, who was executed for desertion, Private Eddie Slovic. Private Slovic was executed because on any given day in the fall of 1944, there was a division's worth of soldiers who were absent without leave in Europe. These are people who had done Italy, they did North Africa, they did Normandy, and they're going into the meat grinder that was called the Herdgun Forest and into Germany. And they said, I need a break. And there's a little French town over there with a bunch of wine, some nice looking gals. I'm leaving for a while. And all they're gonna do is throw me in the stockade a little bit and then send me back to my unit. All right, I bought myself, a few months. This was a big thing. Eisenhower finally had to sign the order, says, well, this guy, we're gonna execute him, to send a message, because we need people to go in, because desertion during war, that's a executionable offense. The point I bring with that story is that humans are humans. We are humans. And we have our limits. And we have our frailties. And we have our abilities to take on only so much. And it's going to be different with everybody else. But we compare and we can contrast. In the fire service, again, we look back on the firefighters, smoke eaters back in the day. Are you kidding? They didn't even wear masks on. They just went in there and did it. They didn't complain about nothing. All the stuff that they saw, well, a lot of suicides in the fire service, right? We're losing more people to suicide in the fire service than we are line of duty. So there's something wrong there. There's something we need to teach our kids that are coming into these professions, that this is a normal human condition. You putting your hand up does not make you soft compared to grandpa or great-grandpa. It makes you human. And we can get you back into the fight, and you can live a long, healthy, productive life. Be a good husband, be a good father, and have a great retirement. That's the goal. right? This was me. A lot of my problem was pride. I had pride in being Master Sergeant Mike Washington, USMC, Firefighter Mike Washington, Seattle Fire Department, Michael Washington, Healthy Baby of Hawaii, 1965. Those are some pretty heavy titles to carry around with you, right? And it got to the point where I didn't know what to do with it. I just didn't know what to do with it. And oddly enough, when you're out there, and I told you, when I came back, there was a part of me that realized that being overseas as a Marine was the best time of my life. In a weird way. And I don't mean the violence, but I mean the camaraderie, the sense of purpose, the brotherhood that you had. It's the fire service times 10. And then there's that part where I knew I'll never be that awesome again too. But I'm wearing a mask. I got really good at it. And every now and then when somebody would see behind it, I'd force it on tighter until I find myself on a bridge. So, man, where does it leave our hero right now? Okay, how does he get from where he's at then on the bridge to the healthy, happy, more or less well-adjusted specimen you see in front of you now? Well, it starts off with taking care of yourself, right? And this is the basic building blocks, and these are the things that we all fall short on in law enforcement, fire, in the emergency department, as nurses, you name it. In these jobs, we kind of lose sight of this, right? We forget to eat right. And I know I'm the poster child. I should not be talking about how any of you should eat. And my wife sitting back there, God bless her, she's on me to eat better as I eat that pound of bacon, right? Because bacon's awesome. But we got to try and eat better, and we got to pass it on to the new people that are coming in. And I think as therapists, and if that's what I end up doing after I get my degree, we have to look at that holistic approach, right? We have to look at, how are you living, man? What are you doing? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating? Are you eating right? Are you drinking enough water? Once again, you know, my wife, hold on a second. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And that means water, right? Get water on board. That's an important part, and we don't do that. And sleep. Anybody here been part of any of the sleep studies that the IAFF has put out? Okay, we lose sight of that. You know, when we're younger, we can go forever. You know, a couple house fires, a couple big fires a night. I'd get up the next morning, go work at the ER. I'd go to the kids' event. I'd do all those things. I could. I get a house fire now, I need 2 days off. Man, my knees, my back, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. But I got myself in such a condition of pushing myself that when I hit the wall, I hit it hard now. And that's the one thing that we have to do. And of course, exercise. Again, I'm not the poster child. Sleep deprivation is a thing. It's a thing in the ER, it's a thing in the hospitals. And here's another thing that we do, right? We work those extra shifts, right? Work those extra shifts, we have that job, and pretty soon those extra shifts become part of your money, right? Now, it's not extra money, it's just money. And now you find yourself working a 48, a 72, and you're catching fires on all those. Even when you go to that station, oh man, I'm gonna go to 41s, man, I'm sure I'm gonna sleep tonight. And then you don't sleep at night. And then you go to the next place. Okay, it's a thing in our lifestyle, and we're kind of hardwired, and we need to break that cycle. And then we have to start getting into the mental health fitness. This is where we have to start using those of us who are more senior, especially if we've used mental health services before, to share it with the younger people coming in, right? If you are that leader in your fire department, if you're a leader in your emergency department, in your police department, you need to be that person who that young soldier, that young firefighter, that young police officer can look up to and go, okay, so it was all right? You're not gonna look at me different? No, I went. I wish I would've went when I was your age, because I wouldn't have been in the mess I was in now. That's important. So a little difference, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, critical incident stress. As we help fire departments start their programs, they want to know, are we peer support or are we critical incident stress? Well, the answer is yes, right? We want to be there for that critical incident, that unusual call, right? We want to be there for that. But then we also want to be that peer support for the day-to-day stuff that affects all of us, because at the end of the day, we're human. Right? For us, anything that involves a serious injury or death of a child, right? Any kind of big event and any long event like a hostage situation or something like that where people are going to be suffering the effects of lack of sleep, that's when we go out. And then, of course, the cumulative stress and the burnout. That's the one we really have to hit our young people on, because they come in, yeah, I want to go work at Station 2, I want to work at 25s where the 8 cars running 30 calls a shift. I want that. Okay, good, you should want that. But the next shift, you need to not work at Station 25. You need to chill. You need to get some time to relax. Go spend time with your family. Do things like that. And meanwhile, like I said, we are people. Okay, the finances equals working those overtime shifts, and soon it's not overtime anymore, that's just regular money. And then the addictions. You get to the point where you're so hurt and you're so broken that you are just reaching out to get whatever it is that's going to make you feel good or numb you, right? It's not even, it doesn't even have to feel good. If it just can stop the pain just for a minute. And for some people, it's that thrill of gambling, and it's drugs, it's alcohol. And it's also, if you look at that guy in the lower right-hand side, it's working extra. And that was me. I was not the exercise guy. I didn't let the exercise addiction take hold. I was very careful about that. Didn't want none of that. Didn't want it. But that's the other part too. That was me, right? In addition to the alcohol. Okay, I was also, let me just be busy. If I'm busy, then I don't have to deal with any of my stuff. Don't have to deal with it. Now, okay, this is going to be good, people. I know it's just pain, doom, and strife, you know, and you last saw your hero, he was standing on a bridge. What's going to happen now? He can't quite reach his bat cartridge and, you know, shoot the thing out. Where do we go? How do we get out of this? Post-traumatic growth, this is the mantra, right? This is what for people in the therapeutic line of work, for critical incident stress, post-traumatic growth. You're taking that bad stuff and you're making good out of it. You're dealing with it, but you're making good. So how do we do that? How do we do that post-traumatic growth? Now, this is for me, right? This is me, and I think it applies to a lot, but I'll just say me. You have to own your own choices and your decisions, right? So I have to own my choice that I was not going to get help. Had I hurt somebody or got hurt when I was drinking, I would have to own that. I have to own how I've hurt my family. I have to own how I've hurt my friends. I have to own how I grabbed that homeless man underneath the bridge by the throat. Okay, I have to own those things. Those things were, you know, I did them, right? I own them. You have to come to grips that you may never know why it happened. Now, everybody's its are different. My two its that I needed help with was being molested and my son dying. And the way that it worked for me was when they pop up, because they do, and I don't try to force them away anymore. They come, okay, let's deal with it, right? I let the record play. It's like a record in a jukebox, right? So I go ahead, I pop it in. Okay, why did that happen to me? Why did that man pick me to molest? Well, first of all, it's not your fault. It's never an 8-year-old's fault, ever, right? So it's not your fault. It's all on him. Okay, it's out of your life. Look who you are now. Good to go. Record goes back in the sleeve, goes back on the shelf. That works for me. That works for me. It's a similar thing for my son. Why did he die? He was such a better Marine than I was. Such a better person than I was. So why him and why not me? Again, I got to play that record. I got to figure out, okay, well, he was an infantryman in a shooting war. And he did good things. And he's with me now. And I'm convinced, and I have the stories to prove it, that he is with me. And I'll share a quick one with you, because the other part of this is a holistic approach, right? Where we talk about mind, body, and spirit. And for me, as I said, my son, I believe, pulled me off that bridge. And when I was at my field placement at Fort Lewis, I just started it, and I was Joe Nobody. I'm an intern. I'm like low. There's nobody lower than me, right? They don't even let me bring coffee. That's how low I am. Well, we lost a soldier out on a field exercise who was run over by a striker in training. He was killed. Somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, Mike Washington, we need you to go talk to Apache Company, 4th Battalion, 23rd Infantry." I'm like, "Who's this?" He says, "Well, you know, I'm from EAP or wherever." "Okay, how'd you get my number?" "Somebody gave it to me." "How?" "Okay." So I go over and I get with Apache Company, and I'm talking to the young soldiers, a brief similar to this, but it's about grief. And at the end, they're coming up to me and they're saying, "Hey, Master Sergeant, that was really good. Thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it." "Hey, you're welcome. You know, all right, we can talk. Here's my number." So on and so forth. One soldier comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Master Sergeant, that was really good. I know that there's people in this company who needed to hear what you said and the way I said it, because I got to talk to them like soldiers, right? I had the knife hand. I was dropping F-bombs like a B-52 over North Vietnam. I mean, I was doing it. But, you know, they had, you know, social workers coming in. "Hey, how you feeling?" You know, they needed somebody who was going to talk to them the way they needed to be talked to. And this young soldier said, "You know, I know all about your son." And I said, "Really? How's that?" He says, "Well, my brother was in this platoon in Afghanistan." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I've been growing up on his stories all my life." I go, "Did you know I was going to be here?" He said, "I had no idea until I saw his picture." I go, I know who this guy is. I know all about this guy. In my mind's eye, and you can't get me different, is that my son had a hand in that. In my mind, body, and spirit, I was supposed to go. I was not to go off that bridge, but I had work to do, and that's what that work looked like. It looked like helping other soldiers. Maybe somebody needed to see a knife hand. Maybe somebody needed to be, you know, told straight, "Hey, this is what's up." I don't know, and I don't know who it was, but I'm convinced that that's what it was. But those are my its. That's what I come to grips with. You find out what your it is that you're getting hung up on, and go see a therapist to find out how you can overcome that. And encourage other people to do that if they're hung up on their its. You listen to your friends and your family, the people that you work with, your brothers and sisters in the fire department, okay, in the military, whatever it is, the people who are close to you, who know you. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, "Hey man, you're being an asshole. What's going on with you? You've been an ass for like a week." "You're an ass." You know. Okay, point proven. It's not always easy. This is a hard one too. This is a hard one to sell. It's optimism, to be optimistic, right? To try and look for the good in what you're going through, right? And sometimes it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to put that smile on your face and go, "All right, man, let's go do this. You know, it's going to be awesome," right? But you always appreciate that guy or that gal who shows up at the station who's just always happy. There's a guy at my station. His name is Caesar, and he comes in. He is always just a good guy. You could have the worst shift. You'd be up all night and just terrible, but it was a better shift because you worked with them. So we know who those people are. We need to try and emulate these people. And if that's not you, that's okay. Just work on it. That's all I'm asking. Just work on it. Right? Sometimes be optimistic and embrace the suck. When you're working in the ER and you hear that radio call come out that it's coming, they're 5 minutes out, they're 3 minutes out, they're 1 minute out, they're here, and you know what this is what it's going to look like at the end. Man, just embrace it. The Marine Corps has really helped me out with a lot of this stuff. right? They taught me to be optimistic. Express gratitude and be gracious, right? Say thank you to people who've done right by you. Again, in our line of work, we like to give each other shit, man. That's fun. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm not saying don't do that. But there's other times where somebody's done you a solid and we just need to let them know that, hey man, I really appreciate what you did. That was just really good. It really helped me out. And it's funny, the first couple times you do it, they don't know how to take it, right? They're like, what? Yeah. You know, they're looking around for the ceiling to fall in on them or something like that, right? So we got to work with that. And like I said, be gracious, damn it, you know, Marine Corps. Pursue excellence. Now, what does that mean? Okay, this means our outside hobbies, right? These are things, but it doesn't have to be outside. It can be within our work, because if we start falling into that trap, our work suffers. Okay, when I was at my worst, I was not a good firefighter. I mean, I was good to haul hose and do heavy work, but 80% of our job is EMS, and I was not a good patient person, right? Sometimes I just like, well, whatever, you know, okay, what's wrong? Let's get out of here. There's nothing wrong with this guy, all right? So I'm not at my best. So pursue excellence in our jobs. We can start with that. And then pursue excellence in other things. Pursue excellence in the endeavors that are hard and require mind, body, and spirit to act in harmony. Now, you can go ahead and come up with whatever it is that is going to be to you, right? For some of you, it's golfing, right? You get on the driving range, and when you hit that, when you drive that one, and it's that tink, and it's sweet, man, that ball goes exactly where you want it to go, and it goes far, there's nothing better. Because you know there's a fair chance that the next one's going to go that way and not go as far, and it's not going to be as sweet, right? But you keep at it. You pursue that excellence. So I just came up with a few. Woodworking. I'm not a woodworker, but I really appreciate people who build a table, like a really nice table, and the time it takes. I know a guy at the fire department who goes out in the woods, finds a piece of wood, and just takes his time. And I said, man, that is really a great way to just kind of disappear into this. Put all this other stuff on the shelf and just disappear into it. Marksmanship. Anybody shooters here? Yeah, I'm not a gun guy. I've never owned a gun in my life, but I like to shoot, and the Marine Corps taught me how to shoot. And there is something really cool about going to the range and getting that body control, that trigger control, sight alignment, sight picture, controlling that explosion, and getting that projectile to go exactly where you want it to go in that V-ring. That feels really good. Mind, body, and spirit. Music. Anybody here play music? Anybody here got a guitar leaning up in the corner of their room that's they meant to play forever? Yeah, me too. So when I finished with school, I won't even finish that statement because that's probably not true. I'm going to start the guitar. I mean, probably not. But music, it's that thing that you work at. You learn that first song, right? They say it takes 10,000 hours to become really good at something. Don't look at it like that, right? Just look at that thing that I am just going to incrementally get better at. Scholarship. I really, when I wrote this slide, it was before I was going to school. I am not going to tell anybody to go back to school because school sucks. I'm in the middle of my MSW, and not the middle, I'm at the end, so I should have a better attitude about it. And my daughter just graduated with her Master's of Nursing last year, so she feels me. But man, when you're in the middle of it, it's not that awesome. But when you're done, it is, right? And I'm learning stuff, right? It's taking me outside my comfort zone, and I have to really lean into it, and I have to learn new things. And at the end, it is going to be awesome. Write. Did anybody here write or journal? Two of you? One of the things that's hard, I journaled for all my combat tours in the military and some epic bike rides and some of my disaster responses. One of the things that kind of almost stopped me was that the Civil War guys, those doggone people from the Civil War wrote like poets. Every last one. There's not a single diary that has nothing but poetry in it. So Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, right? And he uses words like overmasters. What does that mean? right? Immortal. Just beautiful things. Don't get hung up on that. Don't get hung up on what it's going to sound like to somebody else. This is for you. This is your journal. This is your thoughts, your feelings, how you want it to look. You should do it like this. Journal entry, 15 February 1991, day 37, Saudi Arabia-Kuwait border. How in the did I get the ham slice MRE? I hate this place, I hate this place, I hate this place. Sergeant Michael Washington. This guy, right? That's how I felt right at that time. There's other times that it's more poetic when I'm watching something, a sunset, and I'm just writing about it, and you get better at it as you do it. And it feels good. It feels good to get it down. And it feels great to look back on it 25 years later and see where you were at, see where you've grown, see just who that guy was back then. Try things that are outside of yourself, all right? These are the things that maybe you kind of wanted to do, but kind of afraid. Or whatever you got that in your head. My wife and I are ballroom dancers. And we've been ballroom, I know I look like one. And you look at this picture, I mean, she looks like a ballroom dancer. I look like a dancing bear, right? There should be like a little fake tutu around me, right? A couple years ago, we've all been to weddings or events and we've seen somebody get up and somebody do a tango. And you go, that's badass. I would love to be able to do that. Oh man, those guys are two-stepping like nobody's business. Oh, look at that cha-cha over there. Look at that salsa over there. And so I went and I got the introductory lessons at Arthur Murray, and it's 2.5 years later we love it. I can't imagine not doing it. Because when we get together, we are dancing. It's something that we both like to do. It's something you get better at. Well, you should. We do. Right? And it's just fun. And now I have these dance friends who are not in the fire service. I mean, one of them is, but we don't talk about the fire department. We talk about, hey, how's the cha-cha coming along? You know, how's that thing coming along over there? Are you going to the big dance? We talk about those things. So it's something totally outside of ourselves and we love it. Now, I want you to take a look at the people in the background because they're going to come up in the story here in another minute, right? Right? You see those people back there. I'm just going to play a couple seconds of this. So, I just wanted to give you proof that I actually do this. Take the uniform off. Take the scrubs off, all right? I know that deep down in our hearts, we are all first responders. We are all protectors. We are always on that wall. We are. When we go to the mall, we're looking around. Especially if you're a cop, you know, you're okay, check them, okay, no, okay, that might be a threat there. Right? We all do that. We look for exits when we go into a hotel. We look for our reaction to the bad thing that's going to happen because that's what we do. And I'm not saying don't do that because you can't. You can't do it, right? I know there's places I go right now and I see, okay, would my .50 caliber work right here? Okay, if I called for mortars, where would be the best place to set them up? I just do it. I'm a Marine. I'm a firefighter. That's who I am. So taking off the uniform just means taking off what you can, not being right there all the time. You don't have to always be this person. You can still be a firefighter. You can still be a cop. You can still be the nurse, the doctor, without always being up there on the parapet. Because you are anyways. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is taking that time to just be with you. Right? Now, you can call that a lot of things, but it's that time where you're not thinking about anything else, and you're just in your space, in your time. And that's hard to do in our world because we have these little devices that ring, or if it makes a little ding sound, we must answer it. We just cannot not answer it. We have to see who just dinged us, right? And so it's hard to do. It's hard to do when we're driving. In order for me to not look at my phone, and I know this is bad, that phone's got to be in the trunk. Right? I know I'm the only one. The rest of you guys are all disciplined, and you guys are, I get it. But I'm saying is that we have to find that time when we can be at one with ourselves. Right? And for me, what I've tried to do is that early in the morning, as I'm going to altitude, as I like to tell my wife, I have that cup of coffee and I just look at the fire. And I just kind of be at one. And it's kind of meditating, but I'm really just enjoying the moment of just taking that time, because I know the rest of the day is going to start moving. It's going to move fast. But we have to have that time for ourselves. So what keeps me going right now? Well, my beautiful wife back there, she keeps me going. Right? Having that partner, that trusted confidant, is such an amazing feeling. Somebody who there's no judgment, somebody who's there, who's always asking me, am I all right, and mean it. Right? And someday I can do that for as well. Because that's the thing, right? Because in a relationship, there's two people, and if you're going through your thing, you think the other person's not going through something? The military spouse? Yeah, maybe I was overseas, but guess who was home watching the kids and working? Right? You. So we have our thing. So understanding and being available to each other is such a big deal. But knowing that somebody's got my 6. I've got a number of people who have my 6, but I have one person in particular, and that's her. Save a Warrior was a program I went to after Moore, Oklahoma. And this was a turnaround point for me. I wasn't completely out of the woods. I still had some dark days, but it taught me that there's other people out there going through the same thing. And we're not talking about war, we're talking about the 0 to 18. That there's other men who have been molested. There's other men who grew up in those circumstances like I did. There's other men who are trying to forget things that, well, you can't forget them, you gotta deal with them. And then let alone throw in being in the fire service, throw in being a cop, throw in war, throw in tragedy. My family, right back there. My daughter, my 2 granddaughters, right? They keep me going. My son-in-law too. They keep me going, right? I think about them all the time. You know, I want them to be proud of me. I want to do well, so I look good in their eyes, and I want to care about them, and that keeps you going. That keeps you moving forward. And my stepkids, right? Green hair and all, right? They're awesome. You know, they're awesome. And it's the same thing. You know, I think we're all a mosaic. We're all a puzzle. And there's a lot of pieces that put Mike Washington together here, right? Some pieces are there at different times. And all of these pieces come together and make me and keep me going. My brothers and sisters in the fire service and on Team Rubicon. Jamie Foxx, he keeps me going. Therapy keeps me going. And what I tell people who are afraid to do it, I say, yeah, just because the process hurts doesn't mean it won't be beautiful. But you will likely have to go through a lot of stuff. And I tell the younger people, if you wait until you're 50, you're gonna have a lot of stuff to go through. So don't wait until you're 50. You know, I should probably make that not unknown. It should be Mike Washington. Because nobody knows, right? Yeah. When I was in the Marine Corps, let me see what my time looks like. Okay, good. When I was in the Marine Corps in counterintelligence, I went to a program called SEER School, which is a prisoner of war program. And as a counterintelligence agent, I was one of the people that they said, there's a good chance you'll get captured and tortured. So we want you to know what that looks like. Yeah, awesome school. But one of the big takeaways from that school was to actually talk with Vietnam POWs who would come and speak to the school. One of them was a naval aviator who was shot down over North Vietnam. Now, before being shot down, he was, name, rank, serial number, nobody's gonna get any information out of me, those commie bastards, that he was that guy, right? Well, we were all that guy. Well, he gets captured and he gets sent to the prison camp. And about the first week, all they did was torture him, right? They just softened him up. And then at the end of about a week, they sent him into general population, where he was crushed. He was just a broken person, broken man. From the naval aviator he was here to what he was a week later. The senior ranking officer of the camp, of the POWs, tried to get in contact with, hey, how you doing? What's going on? I've been in here a little while. What's going on in the world? And he wasn't responding. He was just so despondent. Finally, he said, sir, look, before we do anything, I got to tell you something. And he goes, okay, well, what's going on? He said, sir, I broke. What do you mean? This last week, the interrogations, the torture, I broke. I gave up information. And he goes, okay, that sounds pretty serious. Tell me, what'd you tell him? I told him everything. I told him everything I know. I told him the service ceiling of my airplane, the ship, the squadron, weapon system. I told him everything they wanted to know. He goes, wow, okay. Well, how long did you last? Well, sir, I lost track of time, but I think about a week, if I can remember right. He goes, a week, huh? Yeah, I lasted 3 days. He went, sir? Yeah. Did they do that thing where they hang you like that off the ground? Yes, sir. Yeah, I was done after that. I thought my arm was going to come right out of my body. I started singing. He was like, you? I said, well, let me tell you, we all did. We all broke at some point. He says, let me ask you this. Did you do your very best? Did you try your best to resist? Yes, sir. That's all I can ask you. That's all I can ask you to do, right? I tried my best. Everybody in here broke. Well, except that guy over there, but he's kind of weird. But otherwise, all of us had our limits and we reached them. We tried our best and at some point we talked. And guess what? The North Vietnamese know everything they need to know about the A4 Skyhawk. It's not that sophisticated of an airplane. And they know what ship you flew off of because it says USS Oriskany on the side of it. And they know what squadron because it tells the squadron on the side of the airplane as well. And Time magazine tells them everything else. They just wanted you to feel badly about yourself. The way you felt. And he said, if I could have killed myself, if I could have found a way to kill myself, I would have done it. And he says, but when I found out that everybody else had talked and everybody else there was a resiliency to them, I felt like, man, I'm back in the fight. I was better than I was before. The big key of the SEER school program was be the palm tree, not the oak, right? Yeah, you take a lot and you're resilient. You whip back up. You whip back up. Back downwind. After the hurricane, palm trees are still there, right? The oak tree, yeah, I got this. I got it, man. No, man, are you kidding? Nothing. You break into a million pieces and you're done. You're done. Like that guy was. He was done. Right? It's okay to offer help and receive help. That's a hard thing in the fire service, to receive it especially. Hard to do. A little bit of negativity biases. This is when we're taking things and we're going negative with it, right? We get rid of the negativity in our life. And here's another one, right? So, and I found this especially, in the fire service, in the hospital, in the ER department. It was like there was always those drama people, and they would be the ones saying, "Man, I don't like drama." Really? Because you really create a lot of it. Now, who went to the dead cat first? Right? Everybody goes to the dead cat. I was going to put an actual dead cat on there, but you might be some cat lovers in here. But the negativity bias means is that we come home from a shift and we got the bad thing that sticks with us, not the good thing, not the awesome thing, right? So we got to kind of just be aware of that. Detach from technology. Now, this really for our young people coming into the fire service and, well, everything else. You don't have to have this stuff on. You don't have to upgrade every doggone second. And get a pet, right? How many of y'all got a pet? Right? Yeah, get a pet, any pet. Get one of these. No? Who doesn't want a Komodo dragon as a security system? That'd be pretty awesome. Get a dog. Who's my dog people?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Where's my cat people? Get a dog. Get a dog. Hey, I didn't see any crisis cats out there, right? I'm just saying. Nobody comes into a debriefing with a cat. I'm just saying. Maybe we should. I don't know. But dogs are awesome, right? Yes, sir.
I just have to say, my son's fiance has a service cat. It's her cat. It takes care of her. She loves it to death. My son would like to see it left out in the snowstorm.
If the animal's taking care of you, then that's number one.
Just saying.
Otherwise, get a dog. And then would your cat do this for you? Heck no. The cat would be on the side of the plane like this. Now, to be fair, that dog is so stupid he has no idea what's going on. He probably threw a kibble out there and the dog went, oh, I'm going after it. But, getting a pet, and pay attention to the signs. So this is happening to me right now. Okay, as I speak to you right now today, this is happening. So I've been working a lot of hours at the fire department, a lot of overtime, just a lot of shifts, and they've been very busy shifts. There's those shifts that when I go, okay, I got a bunch of homework to do, so today should be an easy day, and it's not an easy day, and I do the thing where I have to send my paper in right before midnight, and it's like 11:30. I'm going, okay, let's. Then we get a call, and I'm like, oh, come on, they look all right to me. Let's go back to the station. I got papers to send out. So I've been very busy at work. We've been very busy in Seattle with CISM calls, and I'm getting better. I'm getting better at saying I'm out. I am not available for this. It's not easy. I listen to my trusted advisor to say, you've got a lot on your plate right now. But really, right now, I was not recognizing the signs. So school, scholarship, right? Burning the midnight oil, literally. Family challenges. My stepson is a heroin addict, and he relapsed. And when that happens, my wife and I, there's a cycle that we go through. Anybody else have any challenges like that in your family? You know what I'm talking about, right? So we deal with that. We're getting better at it, but it's a thing. It's a thing, and it breaks my heart. It breaks her heart, and we're together on it, but it's a thing. I have a brother who's in and out of jail all the time, and I'm frustrated. How do I help this guy? He's 45. I know he's a grown-up. Let him do his thing. That's easier said than done. These two things, this is kind of strange. I saw a movie called They Shall Not Grow Old. Anybody heard about this movie? Peter Jackson, who did Lord of the Rings, had a grandfather who was in World War I, Western Front, the trenches. And he's really big into that history. So he got a bunch of World War I footage. He hired lip readers to read what they were saying, because they're silent movies. And then he got actors from the areas where these regiments came from to speak the lines of these guys. And then he colorized it and made it so incredibly real. I think I was hit a lot harder by that than what I thought. There was a couple scenes where there was some soldiers, standing there, talking and looking at the camera. And I know in 10 minutes, they're all dead. They're all dead. And with it being in color and listening to those voices, I think it hit me in a way that I wasn't ready for. The other one is Combat Obscura. That's about a combat correspondent with his B-reel footage from Afghanistan. And I remember I saw just the trailer, and that night my wife said I had nightmares. And I've been having nightmares off and on. So I wasn't really ready for those. And then in my field placement, we're just losing soldiers to accidents in the field, drunk driving, alcohol-related stuff, and I take it personal. And I know I have to learn as a therapist, and I know as a CISM guy, I know all these things, but I do. And it hits me hard when I get that text that Bravo Company just lost a soldier. I feel like there should be something I should be able to do for this, and I have to play the record. You know, hey, you weren't there. There's no way you could have changed this. You made a decision. It was a bad one. There's 18 other people in line before you. I get it, but it still hurts. It still hurts. So I'm having trouble focusing. Like today, I forgot to bring my power cord with me. Thank God they had a power cord, or else this would have been very short brief here. Trouble sleeping, and of course the nightmares. And it's off and on. Pardon me. They're off and on, and they're there when they haven't been there in a while. And the rage, right? The monster comes out of the box. Now, you remember that dance video, and I told you to look at those people in the background? So it's probably been about a month and a half now. My wife and I had a dance event. And so you get on the dance floor, and you have these dances in between your solos. And so there could be 20 couples on the dance floor, and then they're going to switch over. Another 20 couples will come out. And I remember we were walking off, and this guy threw his shoulder into me. And I lost it. I stopped, I turned around, I was this guy. And my wife, who just kept going, she goes, "Hey, baby, what's wrong?" I go, "That just threw his shoulder into me." He goes, "What guy?" "That guy over there," who's now he's on the other side of the dance floor. And I'm wanting to go over there, and she's pulling me back, and she starts, doing that thing where, you just kind of rub the arm, like, that dog was about to go off. "Easy, boy. He ain't worth it. Down, boy, down. There you go." Right? And I'm walking back, I'm like, all right, okay. I lost it. Now, you saw the people around the dance floor in those pictures. This is an Arthur Murray dance event. Nobody threw their shoulder into me. Somebody bumped into me, okay? If we looked at the tape, we brushed shoulders. But to me, where I was at in that perfect storm, I was ready to grab him by the throat, like I did that homeless guy under the bridge, and I was ready to pummel him. I allowed these things to come back on me without really taking a look and noticing. So what do I do? Most trusted advisor: "Baby, when's the last time you seen a therapist?" "Yeah, it's been a couple months." "Baby, you get enough sleep? You eating right?" "Yeah, I'm trying." Okay, but I'm listening. Try to get my mind, spirit, and body back together. Okay, I think if you're just cognizant that you need to do these things, that's half the battle. It's half the battle. That means, "Hey, I'm thinking about it, I'm good." You got to pursue it. Right? Doing something physical, having a physical goal. So in Seattle, we have the Columbia Tower climb, 69 stories, 1,300 steps, on air, full combat gear, and doing that without dying. That was my goal. Check. And diet, eating better. Okay, next. And sleep number infantry, trying to just sleep better, right? Just trying to sleep better. And that's a work in progress. I'm working on it. And therapy. When I went back to my therapist, who I like a lot, and it's at a vet center, and I remember sitting in the waiting room, and I was very nervous, I was very agitated. Sounds were really bothering me. And this is a place I've been to before that I feel comfortable going with. Not then. And when she came up and led me back to her office, where I've been a number of times, there was a little pause, almost like I wanted to toss a grenade in there first and clear the room. And she noticed all that stuff. She goes, "Yeah," and she goes, "You don't look good. What's going on?" I started telling her. For 10 minutes, I had tears running down my face. And I'd say that they were in between the breakdown and a good cleansing one, more on the good cleansing one. I wasn't embarrassed, I wasn't trying to hide it, and I didn't know they were coming. But as we spoke, as we talked, I was able to just let it go. And that worked out for me. And then the next visit, the next week, and when I get back to Seattle, I see her again, it's better and better as I apply these principles that I know I'm supposed to. I'm in the business, I'm learning about it, But it's not easy to look in the mirror and say, okay, this is what you ought to do. It's like going to that person with the who's got the cannula going and a cigarette in their house, right? We've all seen that. And then we get outside and we light up a cigarette, and can you believe what the hell are they doing? Okay, I don't smoke cigarettes, but I've seen people do that. Or, you know, on that great scene in Backdraft when they're doing salvage and overhaul with cigarettes in their mouth. We've all seen that. Some of us have been that person. So look, if anything in my story sounds familiar, the bad stuff, or if you know somebody who's going through that, then we need to play tight defense on them and get them some help. And I don't really care what that looks like. I don't care what you do. If they're where I was, if they're where I was, they need help right now, because all it would take was just a little forward momentum and I'm off the bridge. All it would have taken was just some other truck or my son just not being on watch over me, and I'm not here. Okay, so if we know who these people are, and let me just say, we just lost a firefighter with the Boise Fire Department in Idaho, hung himself in the apparatus bay. There's some symbolism there, and I did a briefing there a few months ago. I don't know what all was going on. I don't have all the details. But I'm you, you're me, he's us. Right? Anything sounds familiar. Okay, we're not soft, we're not weak, we're not broken. People, we're on the wall. We protect all this other stuff out here. From the hospital, to the law enforcement, to fire, to the military. Right? So we're not, you can't be these people and do what we do. You can't. Or you won't last very long in the business. And the business will dispose of you. Hey, we owe it to our families. And why do we do it?
You're going back in? There's still men out there. When I go home, people ask me, hey, who? Why do you do it, man? Why? You some kind of war junkie? I won't say a damn word. Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand it's about the men next to you. And that's it. That's all it is. Hey, don't even think about it, all right? I'm better on my own. Hey, we started a whole new week. It's Monday.
It's about the man and the woman next to us, our brothers and our sisters. That's why we do the job. I mean, yeah, we like helping the public, we like doing all that stuff, but when it comes right down to it, man, you're just around some super people. Some people who decide, yeah, it's my turn, I want to be on the wall too. I want to be one of these people. And when you got that brother and sisterhood, man, there's nothing better. I love my career as a Marine, as a firefighter, and I can't wait to serve law enforcement, fire, and the military as a social worker, and my brother and sisterhood with my social workers. It's weird. I do get that thing. Oh, social worker. I'm a social worker. Yeah. And then we do like a secret handshake, but we can't show you guys. We can't. You didn't see that. Okay. So this is the conclusion of my presentation. The idea behind this is just to show I'm just an ordinary firefighter, right? Didn't invent anything, haven't done anything spectacular. I showed up, done my job. I'm you, you're me. And I want you all to take this message and push it out to your departments, if it's not already, and I'm sure it is because you guys have a great great programs going. But if there's something here that you didn't think about, something that you didn't see, and if this is you, if any of this is you, where you find yourself drifting in going, oh man, what's going on? Okay, I get it. And I understand that for the rest of my life, if I'm not careful, I can drift back in there. But that's all right, because I know how to get out. I can listen now, I get it. And I know that that guy brushing up against me at an Arthur Murray dance event in sequins and dance shoes, he's not wanting to fight, or if he does, it's gonna be like the Jets and the Sharks on West Side Story. We'll be doing like that, you know, and it's all right. One last thing is that we have Memorial Day coming up, and it's gonna be a fun weekend, barbecues, picnics. I think we're going camping, but I want you to remember and pass on to people to remember what Memorial Day is about. And it's not about veterans, and it's not about people on active duty. It's about those who served and laid down their life for this country. My son Michael, my wife's grandfather, died on Okinawa. Freedom isn't free. They're on the wall, just like we're on the wall. So thank you very much for your attention and putting up with the glitches at the beginning. I really appreciate your attention. I'm here for a few more minutes to answer questions, and I got some contact points up here. If you want to take a picture of that, I put some cards out. Did everybody get a card? No. Who did not get a card? Here's a card for you. Oop. And that's all I got. Thank you very much, everybody.